Good sleep means a good day. Can't sleep. Gotta try a hypnotic lullaby.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about Jacob, and it's kind of exciting because a lot of players, like 99.9% players, think that Jacob is useless. But I'm gonna tell you, from the theory crafter's perspective, he is supposed to be OP. I'm gonna explain to you in this video. Come on, let's go. Let's take a look at his first skill first. Attacks one enemy, damage 120% attack, normal attack damage, 80% chance of inflicting poison for 2 turns. So it's not 100%, but 80% is quite okay with the average number of 75% chance that you want to have for your first ability. And as usual, I always say this in my stream, that poison in this game is the most OP thing that can happen to an RPG game. Because in every other games, poison is supposed to deal damage over time. That will be an addition to your direct damage. Like it's gonna complement your direct damage by adding the damage over time that, you know, gonna do its damage while you do your thing. But in this game, the poison, the damage over time that you deal to your enemy deals a maximum percentage HP of your enemy. So that means that if you give them enough poison, no matter how strong your enemy is, as long as they can get inflicted by poison, they gonna die. You know, so that's the most OP thing. Like when I first started playing Dislyte, like, I can't emphasize this enough. Like that's the thing that makes me love this game. You know, first I like damage over time, and poison is the most OP thing in this game. And you know, there are a lot of good poison experts in this game. So for Jacob's case, the poison works the same, and the first ability is quite okay. It inflicts poison. So if you give him Avatara or a relief set, he can just keep inflicting poison on your enemies. But that is something that other poison experts can do. So there is nothing special about this from Jacob. Now, going to the second skill, this is what makes Jacob Jacob. And what I was gonna say, in theory crafter's perspective, this is the most OP thing that you can have. You already know how poison works. It deals percentage HP damage to your enemies, and these fangs, which is a silver buff, that every time your allies who has this fang buff get attacked, it will retaliate with poison for 2 turns, and the bear cannot be poisoned. You know, and the way the second skill works is that it grants fangs to all allies for 2 turns. While fangs is active, taking a hit has a 70% chance of inflicting poison on attackers for 2 turns. So the chance is quite low, like 5% lower than what you can expect from a 50-50 chance of applying poison to your enemies. So that's what makes this skill a little bit unreliable. But that's the thing, that's what I said. Like in theory, this is insanely good, but in practice, it's not happening that often. That is the problem. You know, the problem for Jacob is that he is still an epic expert. So his skill sets are OP, but the developer decided to nerf him so much that this OP skill is not gonna work, and that's how it is. Now I'm gonna tell you why, like the whole theory about this fangs, you know, because what other players don't realize, or they didn't test, or they like they don't know, most of them, is that fangs will give poisons per multi-hits. So if your enemy attacks you 5 times, like for example, like Elaine, you know, Lily, Moroyama, etc., etc., a multi-hitter expert will receive the poison equals to the number of multi-hits they do. And that's the OP thing, because in theory, an Esper like Ana, who can only be killed by multi-hit, if she is given a Fangs buff, she will be a serial killer. She will be like a killing machine, because every time she receives multi-hit, she will counterattack with poison equals to the number of multi-hits your enemy deal to you. That is how OP this Fang is, and that poison deals percentage maximum HP damage to the attacker. And also, the more the enemy moves, the more poison damage they will receive. Like for example, like if you have an enemy like Li Guang or a speedster, they keep on attacking your allies who got the Fang buffs, and you didn't even get a chance to move, that Li Guang will just kill herself. Like by the time your allies actually move, like Li Guang will probably already have like 12 stacks of poison just by keep attacking our allies. And the best part about this is that an AoE attack which hits all 5 of your allies, and all 5 of your allies have Fangs buff, will each give poison debuff to the attacker per multi-hit that they do. So for example, if an Esper deal AoE damage that hits 2 times, that means that for each of your allies, 5 of them, will give 2 poison stacks each to that attacker, which in total gonna give that attacker 10 stacks of poison debuff just by one attack. So in theory, this is why, like I said, like in theory, this buff is actually the most OP thing in this game. But the developer decided that that is too OP. So there are a lot of nerfs from this buff. The first thing is that the chance of inflicting the poison is only 70%. So it is not very reliable. Like for example, that the AoE attack that hits 2 times. In theory, it should have given the attacker like 10 stacks of poison, but in reality, it's probably only gonna give the attacker like 5 or 4, like even less than 50% of what it is supposed to give, in reality. And also, the problem right now is that Fangs is a silver buff, which can be removed by this spell. So it is very easy to remove these Fangs on your allies, and the most troublesome problem is that you need Jacob to move first to give this Fangs buff to his allies in order for your allies to start counterattacking using poison. So this buff is best when your enemy moves so much faster than your allies, but to give Fangs to your allies, you need to be the first one to move, which counter the previous statement that I said, So that's the whole thing about Fangs, It is like supposed to be really good, but the application of it in actual fight is very hard. Even though it lasts for 2 turns and the cooldown is 3 turns, which almost gonna give you a permanent Fangs if the enemy doesn't have any dispel. So that means that the more they attack you, the more they're gonna die. But it is what it is, he is still an epic Esper. So that's why if in the future Dislyte developer team decided to make a legendary Esper who has these Fangs implemented into a golden buff, or even better, a passive skill that allows your allies to give poison to the enemy if your allies is being attacked by them, definitely pull that guy or that girl or that woman. You definitely need to pull that Esper, because the more multi-hits they do to you, the more they gonna die. And the only way for you to counteract that is for you to give immunity to your allies, like for the enemy to give immunity to all of their Esper. to counter these fangs. But it is something that is quite rare nowadays. Like a lot of players decide to it's better to just cleanse yourself rather than putting immunity to yourself, preventing the whole thing from happening. And the thing is that there are a lot of dispellers, so you can also dispel the immunity from them. And the best part about this is that you have Tricky. If you have a skill that gives a debuff on the enemy's turn, it is always be important for you to always remember Tricky. Because Tricky is the best esper to punish enemies who use a lot of cleanse. Especially when you are able to put debuff on them on the enemy's turn, which means that every time the enemy move, they will get affected by Tricky's passive. Which is why Yalina, an epic esper, the only epic esper that until now I still don't have, and she is literally the most OP epic esper in this game. She is able to give debuff on the enemy's turn, and which is the same thing as Jacob and some other esper, you know, who is able to do that. They work really well, you know, like punishing the enemy using their own cleanse. Like there is also an esper like Sally who cleanses her allies every time they move. That is just asking for death. Fighting against Tricky. So yeah, that is the second skill of Jacob. Now going into the third skill, attacks all enemies, damage 120% attack, which is a little bit higher than normal, like 20% higher. But he is not a DPS esper. You can see from his stats, like none of his stats are high. So his stats, we can call him like an HP esper, which he also doesn't have that much. So his stats is nothing good, I mean. And so this 120% attack equals to not so much damage. So it also has 80% chance of inflicting poison for 2 turns. So still not 100% chance of inflicting poison. So that's why until now Jacob is overshadowed by a lot of other poison espers, you know, because of how unreliable his poison is. But if the target is successfully poisoned or they are already inflicted with poison, inflicts petrification for 1 turn, which is the best kind of disable. And that's why to make a full use of Jacob, you really need another poison esper to move before he moves. And so it's kind of like a waste of slot, you know. The only thing good about Jacob is the Fangs buff, but then again, to waste a slot in a game where you can only bring 5 espers, to waste a slot only for this buff, which can be easily dispelled, and the poison is also very unreliable, is something that a lot of players decided to just overlook. But like I said, if in the future we have this Fang buff becomes a golden buff, you know, you already know from this video how OP that is in theory crafting, you know. So, and also this ability won't miss. So Jacob has a win element. So if you inflict this debuff when against an Inferno Esper, it won't miss. So it's a good addition for his skill. But still, you need to overcome the 80% chance of inflicting the poison first. So if you are unlucky and get that 20% chance to fail, then this won't miss. Will never trigger, you know. So that's Jacob's skill. So he also has a captain ability where you gain an HP bonus in PvE content, which is quite okay. But there are a lot of other espers who can do that, you know, especially a legendary esper who can just give HP bonus 30% in any kind of content. So going to advancement, he's not an esper that you do want to invest. Like I said, like his only good trait, his only good skill is the Fangs buff. So if you are not, if there is no content where you need to punish a multi-hit enemies, then this Fangs buff is quite useless. So until we have a PvE content where we fight an enemy who does multi-hits a lot and can be affected by poison, that's the main requirement. Because even though enemies like Andras or E45 who attacks a lot, attacks you a lot, they cannot be affected by poison that easily. So it still makes the Fangs useless, you know. So that's why investing on Jacob is something that I won't recommend to a new player. But if you are veteran players, now you know everything about Fangs. So if you are like, you know, having nothing else to do, you might want to try it out. But like I said, it's very, very easily dispelled and very, very unreliable. But in theory, it is supposed to be insanely good. Now going to the resonance, the second resonance when attacked by a critical hit damage minus 12%, wait, yes, minus 12%, which increases survivability. The fourth resonance also, this one increase his chance of inflicting a poison, 80% chance of indirect disease. And then the last one is the one that you definitely need, because the intoxication, which is his second skill here, it will increase the duration of the fangs, the poison inflicted by the fangs to 2/3. Because before Resonance 6, his poison that comes from the fang only lasts for 1/3, which makes this fang buff even more useless, you know. So going to the Ascension, his Ascension is actually very, very good. It gives him health, defense, and accuracy. All the stats that he definitely need, and especially accuracy on the 6th Ascension, which gives the highest number of bonus. So you don't really need that much accuracy on him, so you can just reach that 80% hard cap on accuracy very, very easily. And the third one is the one that inflicts petrification on your third skill. Now, going to the rival rune is also quite okay, because instead of giving a Windwalker, Jacob has the Ocean set, which makes him not that fast, but that is what you actually want. Because his petrification works when the enemy is already afflicted by poison. You don't really want to gamble your chance on his own poison, because his own poison has 80% chance application only, the chance. So you do want to rely on other poison esper to inflict the poison on the enemy, and then Jacob will change it to petrification. That's what you want. And also the ages here increase his usage. Like I said, as a teammate, his only ever benefit is to give Fang's buff to his allies. So at least now he has ages to give a shield to his allies, aside from just the Fang. But then again, in a game where we can only bring 5 espers, having that much utility, only like 1 or 2 as an esper, is something that is always of slot. So that's why I don't really recommend wasting your rival rune to him too. But if you do have a lot of spare rival rune, and you do want to try him up, I do suggest that you try him up in Point War first. See if it actually works, which in most cases not gonna work. But you can try it and have fun. And if you have extra rival rune, why not put him in triple threat and see your enemy just thinking they can kill him easily. But if you do it quite well, like, because the rival rune gives a lot of extra stats compared to Point War, where you get like, I think it's 2 or almost 3 times the number of stats you can get from your own equipment. So rival rune actually gives you more stats. That means that Jacob is not gonna be easily killed, unlike in Point War. So he can survive quite long, and his allies also can survive quite long. So he has more chance to put Fang's buff on his allies. So if it can actually work, like I said, if you just pair him up with Ana, and then your enemy doesn't bring any cleanse or immunity, then there is a small chance that you can actually watch a very unique replay where your enemy gonna get, shocked that they die by Jacob. by trying to multi-hit Anna, but instead die from poison. That's the kind of thing that you can expect from Dislyte. Sometimes that kind of thing makes a really good short video or a really good content. But then again, like I said, it's rarely ever happen, and for players like me, you do not want to waste your resources for something like that. But nonetheless, like in theory, like I said, it's supposed to be a really fun and good thing. Now going to his Divinate, when the bearer's HP is below 50%, several times final damage plus 30%, which is his first skill. So nothing really exciting about this Divinate. It is not something that you want to aim. So that's it. That's it for Jacob, guys. Last time I tried him in APEP, I think. Yeah, a long time ago, I tried putting him in APEP when APEP counter-attack a lot. Like every time he get hit 5 times, multi-hit 5 times, APEP gonna counter-attack to you using his skill. And the first time they did that patch, the first expert that I thought of was Jacob, actually. I was thinking, oh my god, they tried to make APEP do a lot of attacks. So it makes sense to give Fang to your allies, which makes your allies cannot be poisoned, so they are immune to APEP's poison. And instead, they will also gonna counterattack with their own poison to APEP. So the more APEP hits you, the more you're gonna inflict poison to APEP, which is gonna kill him. Oh my god, this is so perfect. Yes. Everything was in my head, everything was in theory. The moment of truth, I put it into practice and kablam, zong. The Fang got dispelled straight away because APEP's skill dispelled your buff. And then the poison did not get inflicted at all to the APEP, and you just die because Jacob cannot land a single poison on APEP, because Jacob's chance of afflicting poison is very low, and also bosses in Ritual Miracle have insanely high resistance, so yeah, not gonna happen. So yeah, that's the thing that, sometimes you do need to try it out, not just in theory, but try it out in practice. So if it is a cheap test, then I can do that. But if it is an expensive test, like something that requires you to be at Resonance 6 of Tujue, then you will know, and it's something that I cannot tell you, I cannot show you, but I can choreograph. So that is Jacob, guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.